This is 6.6b of geometry. So we're going to talk about kites. And a kite is a quadrilateral, so it has 4 sides, with 2 pairs of consecutive sides congruent. So consecutive means 2 in a row. So 2 in a row. So these 2 are in a row, and then these 2 are in a row. So they don't have opposite sides congruent. The 2 congruent sides need to be next to each other. So we have a theorem that if we have a kite, then the diagonals are perpendicular. And remember, when they're perpendicular, then it's 90 degrees. So this right here is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, this is 90 degrees, and this is 90 degrees. So let's try to find some angle measures in kites. So let's look at this bottom one here. So first off, we can use that theorem we just talked about, and the angle 1 right here is going to be 90 degrees, right? So angle 1 is equal to 90 degrees since they're perpendicular. Okay, the next step is a little bit tricky. Remember, kites have 2 consecutive pairs of congruent angles, or congruent sides, sorry. So those 2 are congruent, and these 2 are congruent. If we look at this triangle here, and that triangle there, right, those big ones, and remember, so by reflexive, we can say that KM is congruent to KM. Now think back to CPCTC. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Because of that, since we can say these 2 triangles are congruent by side, 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 and then using CPCTC, we can say that this angle here is congruent to this angle here. So, let me move this off. That means that angle 3 is equal to 36 degrees. Right? And we also know by the theorem we just looked at that this is also a 90-degree angle. So this triangle then looks like this. That's 90. We said that angle 3 is 36 degrees. And I don't know what angle 2 is. But I do know that angles inside of a triangle add up to 180. So 36 plus 90 plus x equals 180. So 126 plus x equals 180. And when I subtract 126, I get that x is equal to, 54. So angle 2 then is 54 degrees. So we used the theorem, but we also had to prove using side, side, side that those triangles are congruent, right? And that's going to be true about every kite, right? We can almost come up with our own theorem here. Oh, that's pretty bad. In every kite, these are congruent, and by reflexive, this guy in the middle is congruent. So these 2 triangles are always going to be congruent. So we know that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle. So we can come up with our own theorem that says if kite, then these are congruent, and these are congruent. Right? That'll be true in every kite. Okay, here's a summary of different quadrilaterals. Remember, a quadrilateral is something that has 4 sides. So, if there are 2 pairs of parallel sides, then it's going to be a parallelogram, and it could be a rectangle, a rhombus, or a square. If it has only 1 pair, then it's going to be a trapezoid, and it could possibly be an isosceles trapezoid. Remember, that's if the legs are congruent. And if there are no pair of parallel sides, then it could be a kite. There's your homework.